Hey all, it's B007 here for a quick movie review of the film Downsizing, starring Matt Damon, Kristen Wiig and Christoph Waltz. It's a film by the director Alexander Payne, who's probably known to you for films like Sideways that are very witty, very intelligent, appeal to the sort of middle-aged middle classes. And here he's kind of satirizing everything that they embody, particularly the American variety. So he's satirizing people who have come through the credit crunch. They're living beyond their means. They're loaded with debt. They're obsessed with having a bigger house, with keeping up with their neighbors, with material consumption, and living in a society that's very parochial, that's very much in silos. So, you know, lots of people who look and feel and think like you and not many others with different life experiences. And particularly in America, you're probably not that well traveled and haven't met people from different countries. It's also satirizing the idea that as much as we pay lip service to environmental degradation, we don't really adjust our consumption habits to save the environment. It's a film that's very uneven in tone and direction, and it's not clear to me entirely what Matt Damon or Alexander Payne were trying to do with this film. The first third of it starts off as a sort of funnier, lighter version of a Black Mirror episode with a very big concept. So the Matt Damon and Kristen Wiig characters live in a near future where there's a miniaturization technology, so you can literally shrink yourself down to 5 or 6 inches tall. And what this enables you to do is to then move into a tiny, teeny little beautiful luxury village that comes complete with its own golf courses and amenities. It would feel like a very luxurious retirement resort, perhaps. And even though in the real world you're crippled with debt, once you've sold your house and all your belongings and cleared your debt, that tiny, tiny amount of net money that you have left is actually enough to afford you a very expensive and luxurious lifestyle in the much smaller world. Because, of course, your dollars stay real in value, but they're buying, you know, instead of buying a whole bottle of champagne at $50, you're buying a tiny little thimble amount. So it's the dream that rather than having to cut your consumption to fit your budget, you can continue to live like a king and have very little environmental impact on the budget that you currently have. Now, it's no secret to say that for various reasons, Matt Damon ends up taking this trip into downsizing alone without his wife, and also without much of the money he thought he was going to get. And this brings us to the second part of the film, so where we leave behind the cool sci-fi concept and all that kind of fun of seeing how Alexander Payne imagines the miniaturization would work, and we go into a kind of social criticism second portion of the film. So Matt Damon, through meeting a character played by Christoph Waltz, and doesn't Christoph Waltz always play the same characters where he's this smooth, charming, debonair man about town? He clues Matt Damon in onto a few things about the black economy in the downsized world and the fact that he smuggles in goods from the real world, or the big world, I should say. It's also through the Christoph Waltz character that Matt Damon gets to meet the Vietnamese cleaner who introduces him to the world of the illegal immigrants who do the cleaning and do all the kind of shitty, crappy jobs that no one else wants to do in the downsized world. And I think what we're meant to do is, via Matt Damon, is have our own horizons opened up for us by Alexander Payne into realizing the shitty conditions in which illegal immigrants live, the poor access to healthcare, and how appalling their situation is. Frankly, I found this part of the film really patronizing. I don't need Alexander Payne to open my horizons. I'm very politically aware. And if I did want to go to a film with a very funny, edited together trailer, this wouldn't be the mechanism by which I'd want to be taught what to think about the world. I also think there are real problems with how Alexander Payne presents the cleaner. She speaks with a very pronounced accent, and, you know, I'm a second generation immigrant. Lots of my family have strong accents too. But the way in which she's presented and the cinema audience reacts. So I watched this at the BFI London Film Festival last October. And it felt like the crowd was laughing at her and had been given permission to laugh at her strong accent by the directorial decisions that Alexander Payne made. And I really didn't appreciate that and found it borderline offensive. So anyway, we get the second third of this film, which is very, it's a social explanation of why we should care about immigrants. And then as we move into the final third of this film, we get this very heavy-handed treatise on environmental activism. Because Christoph Waltz, the cleaner, and Matt Damon all travel by boat to Norway, where they find the scientist who originally invented the miniaturization tech and the community he founded. And it's kind of ironic, but his aim was not to enable rich Americans or kind of indebted Americans to live the life of rich people, but to get back to nature and live a life that had a very soft environmental impact. So that part of the film, again, it's very heavy-handed in its politics. I think it's very obvious politics, actually. It's not teaching you anything particularly sophisticated or new, or I wouldn't mind it so much. And then ends with a little bit more Black Mirror-y type tech stuff, philosophy stuff, but my goodness, by then I was so bored. This film has a running time of 135 minutes, and you really feel every second of it because it is so unengaging. I didn't care about Matt Damon's character. I didn't care about his enlightenment. I thought it was just very cliched in terms of cinema, that enlightenment came by means of, a pretty young girl who's going to teach this, blundering middle-aged man to sort of have a soul and care about people. I mean, how many times have we seen that on screen? It's also, as I said, borderline offensive. Well, if my bad review hasn't put you off, you may choose to go and see Downsizing. It's rated 15 for strong language, drug misuse, and sex references. If you really enjoy it, I'd love to hear from you and get the counter opinion, because Alexander Payne's such a good film director. Maybe I'm just missing something with this. Feel free to leave a comment here on YouTube or on the blog at b007.com, where you'll find full written reviews. In the meantime, thank you very much for listening, and stay tuned for the next YouTube video, which will cover Steven Spielberg's The Post.